a lot of stuff you covered. You know,
Brilliant.
so we can go back when you forget the fact.
Good.
Because you've opened up so much.
Anyway, thanks for that, Rog. Make sure we see the book when it comes to it. And the other thing as well is, I was looking through my notes, and there was
Sound. Yeah, your sound's gone, Carl.
You've had it.
Has he dropped off?
Yeah, something's happened to him. Oh, and I found my button, so I'll come back.
Yeah.
Playing the banjo.
Yeah.
It sounds like it.
Turn it
doesn't
up, I
it?
can't hear the tune.
Stop it, Carl.
Keith, we've got you in sight now.
Yeah, I found a little button that I forgotten that I had to push on. It's been so long since I've done one of the Zoom calls, I've forgotten.
What the heck?
Oh, Carl, that's top of the pop.
It's like somebody there playing the.
Turn your radio off.
Oh,
Oh, let's all do a George Formby song while we wait.
yeah.
I'm leaning on the lamp.
I'll get recording. Hang on.
And let the lady passes by. Oh me, oh my.
Oh my.
That little lady comes by. Oh dear. It's nice to be daft sometimes. I've been with Carl too long
I'm
enough.
just like my father-in-law.
Things must be getting bad.
Oh, they are, yeah. Well, that's it, is it? Oh, well.
That was a nice class. I enjoyed that. Yeah. That's it. Nice meeting you all again.
Yeah, short class.
Yeah.
right. So can you hear me now?
Ah,
Yes.
Right. Oh, okay then, Keith. Any news from you, lovely?
a little article in my paper today. Can we hear me all right?
Yeah.
Hang on, if I can read it out. Stonehenge moved from Wales theory in ruins.
Oh,
Oh.
Stonehenge
move. Oh, right.
Stonehenge was not relocated from Wales. Archaeologists have found, debunking the theory that it was a second-hand monument. Last year, research suggested that the landmark's smallest blue stones, which are known to have come from the Preseli Hills in West Wales, had been taken from a previous stone circle erected in Pembrokeshire.
That, with all due respect, that's old news. It really is old news. Yeah.
Professor Mark Nielsen has explained that the material does not match the proposed original site. So that was in my paper today anyway.
A bit delayed with the news, but there we are.
That was that Michael discovered. That was his theory. What was it, Mike?
Yeah, there was a TV program on that about 2 years ago.
That's right. Mike, was it?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
He's gone again.
Carl, you there?
Carl, where else though? Oh, he's.
Anyone seen him?
Oh, he's hidden somewhere.
The pity didn't stay this end, I think, Phil. The better connection.
Do you try and do your archaeology site on Facebook? I still try and do the Bridgend archaeology site. So I'm getting loads of archaeology stuff.
I think he's trying to talk to us, but he's not making any sense.
No.
Can't hear or see you.
We can see your face, but we can't hear you.
See something else, whatever that is.
Sounds like a little.
Where's the
Hello. What is that? Dan?
sounds like a bird.
Probably
It's a bird now. It's a canary now.
Yeah, change. Yeah. These things gives us variety, Bill.
Oh dear.
Dear.
Can you hear me?
Now,
Yes.
Now,
you're back.
Yeah, I've just come in from the other device. So right. Okay. I actually missed everything that Keith said about the it looks like there's sound problems with at least 3 of us today. Keith, can you so obviously what I've been saying about Stonehenge not being moved from Wales was right all along?
Or that it was moved from Wales, but it just wasn't a second-hand site. Because there was a program last year which suggested that, or Mark Parker Pearson had suggested it had been used somewhere else in Wales first and then transported down to Stonehenge.
Yeah.
They're saying now it does. There's no evidence for that now.
Oh,
So
No evidence that it had been reused.
yeah. No evidence was taken by human beings from West Wales at all. It was glacially left. But then again, we're still getting there.
Yeah.
We're still getting there. Anyway, thanks for
That
that,
was
Keith.
my
It's
news, yeah.
appreciated. Okay, Henry, anything you want to say, darling?
2 things have popped up. One was the Muss Farm site.
Peterborough.
Yes. And also the shipwreck, the Malta
Oh,
Yeah, go on.
off the Dorset coast. Which
Tell us
is
more.
well, it's basically stacked full of things like headstones, which are all carved and everything. Obviously, were probably planned for delivery. Lots of other stone artifacts, bowls, grinding equipment, etc. All sat at the bottom of the bit of the English Channel. It's over 700 years old. I think it's the oldest sea wreck off the UK coast they've found to date.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. That really is. That really is. That really is. Anyway, thanks for that. And anything you would like to say, quick?
oh, I'm still trying to run the Bridgend archaeology site. So there's lots of bits and pieces popping up. Pax Mongolia, when the Mongols brought peace to Europe and Asia. I haven't read that, but it's, and the Anglo-Saxons were mainly vegetarian. Anyway, yeah, there's still plenty of news online.
Good. Okay, what about you, Karen?
No, just read the same article about the shipwreck, but that's all.
Oh, where was that? Was that online?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Somebody, yeah.
Bill, what about you?
From Israel, the remains of a 2,000-year-old fishing boat found in the mud banks on the Sea of Galilee a few years ago has now been fully restored and on display in a local museum. So if you want to sort of Google Sea of Galilee boat,
thanks, Bill.
you can get some interesting information on it. I've seen it live. I've seen it live actually, and so yeah.
Right.
Oh, come on, Bill. We want to see photographs of that next week.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Henry? Anything you'd like to say? No.
No,
Okay.
I'm okay.
And Steve.
no, thanks, Carl. Everything I wanted to say has been covered.
Right. So if I've got to go because I
Carl.
burst out coughing, then you're gonna have to go with that.
Yeah, Carl.
Yeah, go on.
I'm going to Scarborough soon with the wedding. I'm going to check on the site that was just outside in the eastern Dales or something. There was a site they kept it secret, dig there, just outside on the edge of Scarborough. So I'm going to try and find actually.
So you're going to go out and visit that site, are you?
Yeah, because I'm in Scarborough for this wedding, and I thought, well, at the time it's time to check it and find out.
Oh, we've been there, Castlereagh.
Castlereagh, yeah, exactly. So,
Did you see the cave under Pembroke Castle they found?
No.
Oh, cave hidden under Pembroke Castle could be 10,000 years old.
Right.
So,
yeah, we've covered that one.
oh, right. Okay.
Right. So sorry about this. So the site that we're going to be looking at today is a site known as Boulder Cliff, which is off the north. There it is. That's where we're going to go today, and we're going to look at the site of Boulder Cliff. And the wonderful thing about the site of Boulder Cliff is it adds a completely in-depth perspective into the Mesolithic period, and it doesn't challenge anything that we've been saying. It actually goes on further from everything that we've been saying. And what we have been saying is that we've got a deep relationship with this wonderful Mesolithic period, in a sense that we've got settlements now. We've got established settlements. We're moving and integrating the idea of the limpet mounds being significant, and their use of hazelnuts as being part of their culture. But we're going in even further by looking at these settlements where we've got the footprints, we've got their technological advances as well. We've got evidence of agriculture, that we've got the evidence of animal husbandry. We've got boats from this period. We've got the different relationship between trees and the landscape. So in every single way, the Mesolithic period is really enlightening. And when you mentioned about the Paleolithic period, Roger, and Francis Pryor's work, and we've mentioned the new work associated with Must Farm and all of this stuff. And we're going to use the word stuff. All of this data, all this information coming out with the Mesolithic period, puts the dating of advances within our landscape thousands of years earlier. And one of the things that we've got to say about everything that we've been saying about the Mesolithic period is that we just didn't wake up in the Mesolithic period and suddenly we had settlements. Settlements obviously existed in the Paleolithic period. There were settlements in the Paleolithic period, and obviously they're much more advanced in the Mesolithic period. We've got to see the Mesolithic period as the first enlightened period that we can detect within archaeology, except we can't detect much in regards to out in the open in the Paleolithic period, because naturally it's all been destroyed via glaciation, but we've got cave evidence. So I'm not really sure I can, I'm not really completely sure that I can run on more than an hour today, but we'll see what we can do, but I'll do an hour anyway. So Boulder Cliff itself, there it is. The site of Boulder Cliff is actually out at sea, a few meters away from the coastline, and it's a site that's been inundated within the Solent landscape. It's the site today that's 11 meters below sea level. And one thing that we're not going to do today is show you a load of images, because what I want to do next week is that I really want us to look at the new discovery that's been made at Boulder Cliff. When I say new discovery, it's been coming out since 2019, 2020, new discovery of a platform found at Boulder Cliff, very similar to evidence of Star-Car, very similar to other evidence that we see at Lund. And we'll be looking at all those images next week. So one thing, this was more of an explanation, a little bit of an overview about Boulder Cliff rather than an actual illustrated lecture, but we'll keep that there now, that image itself. And one thing that we've got to say about Boulder Cliff is it goes far away from what we've seen at Lund, and the important archaeology that we've seen at Lund, up on the north western coast. And it adds in with the data that we're seeing at Star-Car. I did say at Star-Car, are we going to find another Star-Car? Well, we're looking for it, but we have actually found a Star-Car under the sea. But the difference is with Boulder Cliff, we don't have the same problems at Boulder Cliff as we see at Star-Car. Obviously at Star-Car, we've got peak conditions that eat away at calcium associated with bones. human bones in regards, but at the Star Car, what we do, we get a lot of antlers, and we get lots of the other bones that would survive in those conditions. At Boulner Cliff, not only do we get bone evidence which isn't affected by the acids in regards to the PT conditions at Star Car, but we've obviously got lithic evidence, we've got timber evidence, we've got everything else as well. So Boulner Cliff is one of those sites that aims to tell us a lot more about the Mesolithic period, like all these other sites do. I am going to say still that I am going to say still. Sorry, I guess carry on. So the preservation of organic materials is second to none. More in regards to any dry land site, but can be again equated to what we're finding at Star Car. So this site itself, this amazing site, was sort of thought to have existed, but nobody had any understanding of what could actually be there. Now, what we do find is it is a few meters away from the coast. It's 11 meters below sea level, and the site itself was originally found by a lobster, because a lobster had been making its burrow, and a diver went down. And a diver went down to look at this area, to monitor this area, because they thought there was something off the coast of Boulner Cliff. And the diver was looking around and found a lobster. You know, they build these little sort of sets into the mud, and they occasionally come out, get food, and go back in there, that sort of thing. It's a burrow. I called it a set, burrow. And and suddenly they found all this data. There was all these flint tools discarded from the burrow of the lobster. It's a very strange concept.
Yeah.
It dug out all this material, and when you think about this, is very similar to what you might see with a badger or a fox, where a fox and a badger might make their little homes and their sets, and they threw all this pottery out. Well, this is exactly the same thing, and this really identifying the site was in 1999, right? So this site is really new. This site itself is sort of on the edge of of enlightenment in regards to sort of the archaeological record, in regards to the enlightened times that we're now seeing with the Mesolithic period. Now, I would rather like to criticize something that Keith said earlier on. This isn't a criticism of Keith of Keith's thoughts, but the subject he mentioned earlier on, and we'll come to that in a moment. So what we've got at Boulner Cliff in the past, in the past 23 years, is a settlement. It is understanding another part of Britain in the Mesolithic period. And this is quite a sweeping statement to make. We can now understand the Mesolithic period as being far more advanced 2,000 years before it was meant to be. Now, that's quite unbelievable, making that statement. So we're looking at just beyond 8,000 years ago, towards the end of my Mesolithic period. And then we're seeing this being amazing. The earliest dates are at least just over 8,000 years ago at least, and we're thinking that the settlement data might go back at least 10,000 years. So if we want to put sort of the data back 8,000 years, we're looking possibly at least 10,000 years that we're seeing this site develops from 10,000 years. That's amazing. So what we're seeing is we're seeing Star Car within that 8,000 years category. We're seeing the site that we looked at, Lunt, within sort of that sort of band as well. And this is quite amazing what we're actually seeing. Now, one thing I'd like to do as I twiddle here. So it's you know, Keith mentioned about Stonehenge, and I feel that too much research and resources is being put into Stonehenge, and funding people to come up with theories. And you know, I'm very critical of that, because what we need in archaeology is to sort of study these sites more pragmatically. We need to have more funding for sites like Polna, real sites, unlike tossing about with sort of theories on the table in regards to Stonehenge. That's my real criticism. Whether I might lecture you and say, you know, I think the stones at Stonehenge have got there via glaciation, or they've been moved by man, or whatever, right? Okay, those are all theories. They're always going to remain theories, right? What we need to do, and yeah, my stuff's a theory, but if we're going to use literally hundreds of thousands of pounds in trying to work out how Stonehenge got there, I'm sorry, that's just a waste of money, taxpayers' money. And we should really be looking at understanding this type of archaeology and really understanding our roots, rather than wasting our funding and time on silly sites such as Stonehenge. There's a lot more to archaeology than just Stonehenge. That's my anger. So, you know, there's a lot more out there, such as these sites. You know, you look at the Mesolithic period, and most of the time we've never heard of these places. We've never understood these places. And I think what we need to do, we need to sort of open our minds and learn a little bit more by the evidence that we've got, rather than stuff that we can just postulate over. So what we've got is that the investigations tell us that we're keeping with this plan, and the reason why we're keeping with this plan is it feeds in with this next bit here. So what we've got is that we've got a beyond here, between 10 and 8,000 years ago. This is all sort of, you know, between the Isle of Wight and the New Forest, between the Isle of Wight and mainland Britain. This is all more or less dry land, except for a few streams and rivers, little rivers. When I say rivers, sort of 2 or 3 meters across, and little streams and whatever, wading rivers, right? These have all been created because of the melting ice and the local landscape, and this site itself, this settlement, 11 meters below sea level now, is part of that landscape that once lived and breathed, alongside the landscape that we talk about in regards to Doggerland. And obviously Doggerland is being lost and inundated about 8,500 years ago. And that's all being swamped and so on. But it's slowly but surely, but the water level's rising within this landscape. And the landscape is probably lost. The landscape that these buildings are actually on, buildings, settlement, houses, wooden buildings. It was swamped roughly about 6,000 years ago. So people continued to live at this location because it was perfect. It was, but did they? That's the point. We know that the landscape was swamped 6,000 years ago. Was the site abandoned then, or was the site abandoned more like 8,000 years ago? And it was just truly part of the Mesolithic world. And the one thing that we need to say is that this site is being, first of all, the peat itself is losing its acidity. But as the peat loses its acidity with the groundwater rising, with the acidity being neutralized by salinity, what's happening is that as the site is slowly being lost, it's being deposited with silts, fine silts and clays, and those fine silts and clays covering and preserving the site forever. which is a completely different process to what we're seeing at Star Car. But in none of this am I saying I belittle the stuff going on at Stonehenge, because I want us to think about this new world that's coming to us, like Francis Pryor's work. Somebody last night, they were talking to me, they said, oh, they absolutely hate Alice Roberts. And I said, that's a bit of a sweeping statement. And they said, well, she doesn't offer anything new. She doesn't examine anything. She just tells us the narrative. She doesn't do what Francis Pryor does. The person didn't actually say about Francis Pryor, but they don't do the types of things that should be exploratory. What we're doing now.
Yeah, she's not an archaeologist, really.
Oh, God, Roger, I think that's a bit sweeping. But anyway,
well, that's what she says. Her speciality is the.
She went to Cardiff University and she did some archaeology stuff there, and she did history and all the rest of it. So and she's done a lot of archaeological work, Roger. So I'll defend her on that one. But Roger, as I know what you're saying, I do know what you're saying. Let's not be critical of individuals. I do know what you're saying. What I'm okay, yeah, I was critical of what she was offering us, and that's what I'm critical of, what she's offering us.
Yeah.
So anyway, Roger, I jumped on you then, Rog. Sorry. So fishermen had been looking at this location, and I would like to drag in something else as well. That what we do find is that even though the site is relatively new to us, but people have been finding stuff there. They've been finding stuff there since the 1960s, not the settlement. Settlement was found in 1999, and by this wonderful lobster. But what we do find is that the Solent itself has been offering artifacts from all these periods, even the Mary Rose. Yeah. The Solent itself has been offering loads of different artifacts for since the 1960s and beyond. And it was in 1987 that the work of Clement Reid came into its own. The historian, antiquarian, early archaeologist Clement Reid, in his book Submerged Forest in 1913. He discussed about this ancient forest, but people dismissed everything that he said, basically. And it was only until 1987 that people actually looked at Clement Reid's book in one hand and looked at the data in the other hand and said, hang on a minute, Clement Reid was right. There is a submerged forest, the submerged remains between the Isle of Wight and the New Forest, and obviously going from the Isle of Wight into the English Channel all the way over to France. So, you know, even though Clement Reid has been right in 1913, we completely dismissed what he said. And obviously, what we're then seeing. Oh, we got Goff joining us now. Hang on a minute. How do I add Goff? Okay, we're gonna have to come off screen a minute. Hang on. Where are we? Okay, right. Where am I going with this? I'm just going to try and show you another bit of the landscape at Bolna, where it's actually eroding away. So, right, okay, what we've got is I've got to add Goff to it. Right, so here you go. And right, okay. Let's go back to where we were, Bolna Cliff. And obviously what we are seeing at Bolna is a lot of erosion. But the one thing about our site is that it was already in the sea. It was not actually above this. It was actually below this in the sea. And what we can see, what I might do, is if we do chuck this in here, hang on. And bingo, this is what we're going to look at detail in the next week. So this is they've been moving all of this, and this is not the ancient forest. this is actually the settlement. And what we can see is radiocarbon dating that has revealed the upper layers of this site date to at least 8,000 years ago. And the upper layers of this site are peaty. Peaty layers where they're finding the archaeological evidence. So it's likely again that maybe as I was trying to get at earlier on, that the site started to decay and maybe got inundated by peats and so on well before the water levels are rising, hence preserving the site. But that needs to be looked at a little bit more. So the work flints themselves, the typical microliths, a lobster had burrowed through thick mud, creating his home. And because of that, I hope they didn't eat the lobster. And basically going into the original surface, and that original surface is sort of all the archaeology. So what they're doing, that they're excavating here, they're discovering the archaeology, they're showing us the archaeology. If anyone knows anything about the Solent and the tragic events of 1547, I think that's right, 1546 is 1547, the sinking of the Mary Rose. The water conditions are quite fast flowing and they can upturn anything. So obviously working in the Solent, I know it doesn't sound deep, 11 meters, but it is quite deep actually for archaeologists to be excavating on the seabed, 11 meters. But they've got the benefit of decades and decades of archaeological experience associated with Southampton University and the very, very eminent George Bass. George Bass's underwater archaeological work associated with Southampton University, and this site is on their doorstep. So they are able to understand the site and able to look at it and to be able to give us the great depth of information that this site actually offers us. Now, again, I know Goff is one of my great critics on this. Why aren't we seeing more images today? Because I wanted to really expand and tell you something about this site, and then we're going to leave it, and then we're going to go on to Averline Hole, and we're not going to have a break today because if I stop, I'm not going to be able to come back on. So and you know the reasons. So I wanted to say something, and I wanted to say that this would be a good idea. And I've not seen any evidence to say that they've done it yet. Now, when we looked at Star Car, can you remember that box that they excavated, that 1 meter square box? And they excavated and they went through every layer, and it took weeks to do that layer and that layer and that layer. And we went through all the different layers. Yeah, and we were able to find that in certain layers, we could understand that the site was abandoned, and we can see in those next layers that certain flora and fauna is around, and we can see that this happened to the site. You know, it was lived in here, it was abandoned, lived in here, and then we got platforms and we got natural trees and all the rest of it, right? And I said back then, I thought, wouldn't it be great to compare that site with another site? And they can, because they can. So I did say I gotta go against what I said earlier on. I'm gonna take a little bit of a break. Yeah, I will come back. I know I said earlier on if I stop, but I'm just feeling it at a minute. So if we can just take a little break, and then I'll come back to you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that okay?
What, 5
Okay.
minutes? 5 minutes?
About 10 minutes. Yeah. I need to get some liquid. Yeah.
Okay, 10 minutes.
Coffee.
Okay. I'll speak to you later. Talk amongst yourselves.
No, have a coffee.
Well, I think that's quite fascinating. That lobster, finding that lobster burrow.
Yeah.
Okay. you know what I'm going to try to do is actually try.
I had an uncle who did underwater sea diving, didn't he? Oh. Oh, we'll have 10 minutes then.
Ugh.
Is that Henry? Oh, Henry, I went on that site. I went on the site of the clay pipes.
Oh, hi there. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, and oh, it was fascinating. You know, I didn't realise that I was connected in any way. But apparently one of the cousins is married to the owner. You know, they bought it together because he was in the police or the
In the
Garda.
Gardaí.
He was in the Garda. And when he retired, I think he must have bought the house and or maybe they bought the house earlier and then renovated.
Did you just say that somebody was arrested in your garden naked? That's even better. Anyway,
That's strange. I was reading something about.
and let's keep it relevant. Right. Okay. Look, right, we're gonna crack on. I that's given me a second wind, so hopefully I'll be okay for another half an hour at least.
This golf is giving you a second wind.
No, there's no comment there. It's just
sorry.
I was late.
No, don't go there.
what's that, Goff?
Sorry, I was late.
Well, put it this way. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I had a few technical problems then, and Roger had a few technical problems with sound. Keith had a few technical problems with sound. We had a bit of a disaster, but things are sort of okay. So,
Well, that's wonderful. I'm glad I didn't miss too much. And I feel really good now. I've been vaccinated against shingles.
Oh,
yeah, well done.
And my mouth is fresh from the dentist, so I'm ready to go.
no.
I'd be pleased to hear that.
Yeah, I'm very pleased to hear it. At least you can get lots of jobs sorted out now.
And I'm back in time for one of your wonderful lectures.
Yeah.
Stop being a creep. So right, yeah, basically I've got messages on you. What does that mean? No sound, yes. Right. Okay, this is from Henry. Just looking at old maps, you have a lot of woodland plus clay pits and other pits all disused. Right, all right then. I have no idea what the hell that's to do with. Right, anyway, so I'm gonna crack on. So we're gonna I do believe, hang on a minute. Yeah, I needed to take that break then. I did. Oh yeah, we got that fascinating image. Yes. And do I sort of share a little bit of a teaser for next week? Yeah, I'm going to do the teaser for next week. And this sort of teaser for next week takes you on the surface of the settlement, right? So I think that's really relevant. So what we need to do is screen share, and we start now. By the way, hopefully I'll have drugged myself up enough tonight, so I'll be able to I'll be able to be okay. Oh, next week tonight, and this tonight, and I'm going to say this to everybody, right? If anyone wants to come along tonight who doesn't do my Thursday evenings, just turn up at 6 o'clock, right? Because it's sort of taken us into where we've been the past 6 months following the line, right? And you know, if you want to come along at 6 o'clock tonight, then that'll be great. So just join us tonight. You're welcome, everyone. 6 o'clock on Zoom. And that'll make up for some technical problems we've had today. So you're welcome to join us at 6, everyone, tonight. So I want to look at that image, and this image is amazing. This is care of current archaeology, and again, there the surface of a platform, the settlement, whatever you want to call it, discovered in 2019. So this is so new. So
right.
What we're looking at is the Maritime Trust, the Hampshire and White Trust for Maritime Archaeology as well. They're mapping the landscape. They're trying to understand the landscape. They're trying to work out these flints. Yes, and the lobster had burrowed through thick mud deposits. We love it. And obviously diving within this landscape, as we were saying, is dangerous. And you've got the underwater currents. The Solent is known for its quite choppy underwater currents because of the way the ebb and flow, and you've got quite a nice swell there as well. So you've got flowing waters that can be quite treacherous to archaeologists. And so what they are doing is using new techniques. And before I so rudely interrupted myself earlier on, I mentioned this thing about a box. Now they've been box sampling, right? And what box sampling is the same as what they did at Star-Carr. So you take little boxes of samples out, you put them in a container, you take them up, you excavate them in a laboratory, right? Now, I would love the same scale box to be taken out of the ground here, and the data to be completely comparative to what we're finding at Star-Carr. I would love that to happen. Obviously, they would need the 20 or so experts that Star-Carr employed. They would need the funding. They would need the year or two to look through every single sample. They need the laboratory. But Southampton's got that ability to do that. So obviously need a little bit of funding. So again, it would be look, what I'm getting at, right? Even though they're doing their box sampling, these are smaller box samples as compared to the 1 by 1 meter square sample at Star-Carr, which was, what was it, 2 meters deep? I think that was, and all those layers there. Love that to be happening here. And so obviously, I think for me, the excitement is trying to work out if the same things were happening at the same time at Star-Carr as were happening here. That's what I would like to see. Were these people eating the same things as the people at Star-Carr, right? Is the archaeology similar to Star-Carr? All these wonderful questions. And here's my French, right? My French, where's the bloody human remains, right? We're still looking for human remains in an organic context in regards to the Mesolithic. We've got 2 sites where we're getting wonderful organic remains, Star-Carr and Bolna. And we've also dismissed human remains at Star-Carr because the acidity of the ground conditions. But we are seeing other bones being preserved at Star-Carr. So is the acidity that acidic that it would destroy the calcium associated with the bones? But as you do know, folks, where the acid may rot away the bones, the flesh is still visible, as with Lindo Moss and Peat Marsh. So we don't actually find the flesh and stuff at Star-Carr. So what is going on with the human remains at Star-Carr, and what was happening with the human remains at this site? We do actually have the bark gum, don't we, at evidence of bark gum at Star-Carr as well as that wonderful bark gum example that we looked at the other week in Denmark. So what we do find is that we can't compare the archaeology here with dry land sites. We can't do that because it's different preservation. Now, one thing that I would say before we look a little bit further at some of the findings, and then we'll look at Averlane Hole, and then we'll call it a day. So we got half an hour. We're going to be doing this over now, and that's going to be enough. So I want to mention that I want to mention about international trade. What? Oh, international trade, right? Okay, now here we go. This is rather interesting. Next week we're going to look at a boat as well, a Mesolithic boat. So there we go. And this site there, what they're excavating, and that there, of the archaeology of the site, everything. But we also do an overview, and then next week, then what we'll do next week. So international trade, what am I on about? Right, so this is rather interesting. 2015, they found samples of wheat DNA at the site. Wheat DNA, yes, wheat. As this wheat the wheat that they found the DNA evidence of at this site, maybe dating back 8,000 years and beyond, is not a wheat, not native. It's not native to Britain. It's obviously been introduced. The DNA of this wheat is European DNA. The DNA of the wheat is from Europe. The DNA sampling is from Europe. And that means, right, international trade. That means that people gained access to this site via water from Europe. If this sample is actually late, is from the time that Doggerland had already been flooded and the land bridge had been lost, this is international trade. People had a bag of wheat and went in a boat, right? However they went over here, right? We've got to be very careful whether we're just looking at paddles at this stage. What about sails? Oh, slap myself on that one. Did they have sails on boats at this stage? I'm going to say yes, but we don't have any evidence for that yet. But let's just say yes for the sake of argument. But we are going to look at a boat next week. So however vehicle, we know it's a boat, whatever vehicle they used, raft, vehicle, this is international trade. This is when the land bridge is already lost. So wheat is being brought over to Britain, and the wheat itself is in pristine condition. And it's not being contaminated. Love it. One for the archaeologists, one for Southampton University. The best nautical archaeological department, I'm going to say, in the world. That is Southampton. So we're very lucky to have some really great universities in Britain, and Southampton being one of them. Bristol's pretty good as well. And so is the University of Highlands and Islands and Leicester and so on. Shame that we've lost Sheffield. So again, looking at this site, sort of a little bit of an overview, it's sort of a little bit of a teaser, really. So archaeologists have discovered, as we know, lots of flint, but they're burnt flint, lots of burnt flint. They found lots of mounds that contain timber artifacts. The mounds representative of buildings, mounds representatives of stacks of timber or whatever. We're still so new with this site, you know. We look at Star Car and we think of Star Car and we think, oh, we know it all, don't we? Right? And I know it all, right? But we don't, because they're still excavating at Star Car and they're finding new things. They're finding new evidence as science moves on. Now, the wood from this era, we don't have to say it doesn't preserve well on land, but it preserves well in these conditions. I'll go and chuck this at me. Why isn't the salt eating away at the organic remains? Why aren't you've got burrowing mollusks eating everything away? Well, the answer is it was already compacted in peaty and clay-like conditions before salinity completely dominated the site and flooded the site. So that's why we got good preservation. And similar conditions you can say at Mus Farm with our Peterborough site dating back to the Bronze Age, 3,000 years ago. I'm glad whoever mentioned that earlier on. So what we've got is again a large mounds of timber. And the difference is with mounds of timber indicating buildings and so on, is that at Star Car, the evidence is more that, you know, water levels rising, dropping, decay, reveal, preservation, decay, reveal, preservation. So this site itself is just been time, it's been locked in a time warp. It's been capped, it's been left there forever. So archaeologists discovered large areas of burnt clay, burnt flint. What's this about burnt flint? Burnt charcoal. Okay, burnt clay, burnt flint, burnt charcoal. What and burnt timbers and non-burnt timbers. And what's going on? Lots going on, right? And what they're saying is that layer there, the floor, there in front of you. The burnt clay, the burnt flint, and the charcoal, that's actually the floor layer, right? The living floor, the Lebensraum of the Mesolithic pier, the floor of a living space, Lebensraum. Other timbers show signs of having been extensively worked on. Right. Now, this word timbers worked on, intricately worked on, looking next week, intricately worked on. Yes, they worked wood. They didn't just chuck wood together. So in other words, these people building this site are the ancestors of the same people who built Stonehenge, right? Yeah. Stonehenge was built by carpenters, and the sarsen stones being worked on about 4,500 years ago. This site dates to 8,500 years ago. There's 4,000 years in between. The skill of carpentry must have been so advanced by the time they built Stonehenge that carpenters actually worked in stone. Yes. So what we've got is that we've got split oak. They're splitting oak. They've got the technology to split oak. Bill, there's no iron at this stage. They're splitting oak with their axes. They're flint, mainly flint axes, because there's going to be lots more flint down here as opposed to Hawick or the Mesolithic coast of Merseyside and London, Formby. And they're looking at advanced construction at the site, and they're also saying that they also built boats here. Yeah, boats, right. They split logs, hollowed logs out, and what the other amazing thing is about this site, right? Okay, you've got split timbers. How does that come on to sort of working out that we've got a boat? Well, guess what they've got? They've got loads of little wooden pieces. They've got loads of wooden pieces of wood hanging around in the layers. There's wood. There's wood hanging around. We don't just have nap bits of flint. There's wood hanging around. And I tell you what, this is going to blow your mind what I'm about to say now. They found bits of wood, not bits of oak timber that were used for boats. Well, they have. They're getting there, right? But they've also found a bit of wood, right, that's been hollowed out, right, to create a pipe. Did I just say that?
Yeah.
They're making pipes.
Why not?
What? Yeah.
Right.
They've got, listen to this. They've got a timber that shows signs of having been fashioned as a type of conduit, a pipe, which is not something that we'd ever think of in the Mesolithic period. Pipe.
No.
What sort of size pipe?
Do you know what? Right, this was just like a statement that I read, and what I need to do is I need to look at that pipe for next week. I've got a lot to do for next week. And you know what, right? I like that question. What size of pipe? I need to get an image of that. Even if I don't do anything between now and sort of next Tuesday, which I am going to do, I need to get the size of the pipe. I really do. Yeah, I agree. I'm just mentioning this because I can't. You know, this itself is revolutionary in itself. It's revolutionary. Some of the work timbers indicate technological skills that we didn't see for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of more years. We got wooden pipes in the Roman period, but the Roman period doesn't come for another. If we're talking about late Mesolithic, 8,000, 8.5, Roman period isn't arriving for another 8 and a bit thousand years. Right. All right. Okay. Let's just try and not take this in. I'll take this in. So we got the usual stuff from the site. We're not getting limpets, but what we do have is lots of burnt hazelnut shells. And
hazelnuts.
Yeah, more hazelnuts. So right, okay. If we want to put this into category, right? Hazelnut shells up in Hawick, hazelnut shells at the likes of Lund, hazelnut shells at Starcar, hazelnut shells here. So hazelnuts is a big thing, right? But guys, we love hazelnuts today, so it doesn't mean to say it's a period of hazelnuts, but they loved hazelnuts. And actually, there's going to be lots of hazel trees around. So the cob nuts are going to be there.
And the shells.
Yeah, it's going to be there. And the shells, as we've said in previous lectures, might have actually been a useful fuel as well. So we've got burnt hazelnuts, useful as a fuel. Oak charcoal. So if we put the burnt hazelnuts and the oak charcoal together, it's being used as fuel. We've just done that. We just put the two together and come up with 2 and 2 together and come up with 4 and just a 0.1. Well, we'll have that one. Like the wood, there's organically non-burnt wood and there's burnt wood there, right? Don't make the assumption. Don't make the assumption that they've set light to the site. It might have been that at times, you know, they had accidental fires, things burnt, whatever, you know. Let's just not go. Let's just enjoy this, and next week we're going to enjoy it even more. These types of organic material do not normally survive well in dry land-based environments. Again, and they've been digging trenches, right? And in one of the trenches, they found a pit that had been dug into the clay. And interestingly enough, right, I'm going to do this last. I'm going to say something now, right? But I'm going to hold you in suspense because Bill's going to say yes. We've got charcoal being found in this pit. We've got burnt stones being found in the pit, which had been covered with a large piece of wood. So you can. I'm leaving the thing that I want to tell you in a minute. It's revolutionary, right? Obviously what we can say is the same with the Lunt evidence. At Lunt we had 2 pits, did we not, that had stones in them, burnt stones, broken stones, right? Stones that had been put in a hole in the ground, and basically we thought that drainage, but they'd been burnt initially, so we're using those stones to heat up water, right? Examining the pit walls revealed that the pit had been actually used for a purpose as well. So, and that purpose was, as I just described, what they found is almost a clay lined pit, right? And obviously at one stage they had put stones in there, right, to heat the water out and taken the stones out, but eventually they decided to dump everything in there and fill it up, right? And this next thing is revolutionary. They actually found evidence of burnt clay nodules, right? They're burning clay deliberately. And if they're burning clay deliberately, right, call me a madman for suggesting this, but please do, right? If they're able to burn clay deliberately, burn clay nodules, right, they're able to burn clay into pots. Right, they're able to fire pots.
Yeah.
And Bill, what we saw, and you were very lucky that day, as I was as well, we saw some clay that had been excavated at the Ness of Brodgar.
Yeah.
That looked like clay, and that had lines on it that was very early pottery over 6,000 years ago. And I've always said, ever since seeing that, the revolution is to find clay. Just clay that's been baked, right? And we were finding it at Ness of Brodgar. Now, the thing is, right? The thing is, I'm going to chuck something else in there, right? I'm going to get this date wrong. We've got a Venus figure dating back to over, well, like this is right. We've got a Venus figure dating back to over 30,000 years ago, right? In a cave system. I'm not sure which cave system in France because that's whatever, but the figure's over 30,000 years old. It's a Venus figure fired in clay, right? So if that was fired in clay 30,000 years ago, why couldn't they have been firing little objects to store water later on, right? And this is what we're saying. What we're not doing is getting things fired at the temperature that preserves them, right? We all did this when we were children, didn't we? We got bits of clay and we rolled it and we made little marbles and we rolled them along and so on. We all did that. And we put them in the oven and it heated it to 190, 200 degrees C. And we put them in the garden. The rain came out and it just went back to clay. We all did that. I did it. I was very disappointed because they didn't have the firing temperatures, right? They didn't have the firing temperatures. But I'm going to madman Karl, right, suggesting that they had early pottery in the Mesolithic period. Test me on it in 5 years. Many other finds suggest evidence of small scale industry as well as settlement. So, you know, where do we get that from? Well, we've mentioned about these pits heating stones or heating water, chuck a lobster in there, lobster thermidor. Then you've got other trenches that revealed chipped wood flakes. Yeah. Flint napping flakes. Yeah. And even fibers that have been manufactured into rope. So we've got rope. So we've got manufacturing going on here. So what we are going to do there, we're going to finish with Boulder, right? And I do apologize that we're not going to go as long on today. And I know that there was some comments made to me last week to say that we got to start earlier and we've got to have less tittle tattle. I agree with you, but I'm not well this week, so we'll rectify all that next week. But we will rectify it next week with a longer lecture and more that'll blow your mind. So what I want to do is I want to what we're going to do now. I want to next week. I will get that image as well. I will get that image in there. There's Boulder Cliff. There's looking out from the site to the cliff. But obviously this is down there. This is the surface, right below, well, out at sea below where those cliffs dominate, right? So what, again, great Mesolithic level of evidence. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to go to there. I'd like to there. And I would like to go to Aveline Hole. Now, Aveline Hole is very near Goff's Cave. It's near Cheddar Gorge. We're not going to show a plan on there or anything. We're just going to do a nice little bit of a description. One thing I would say is that on the first Wednesday of August, between 11:30 and say 1 o'clock, we'll be having a prehistoric live class in the Barry studio, and everyone can come along to that. So it's the first Thursday of next month, and then we'll do the proper lecture for those. Well, proper's wrong. We'll do the normal lecture on the Thursday as well for anyone who can't make that and just wants to do the online thing. So we're doing a live one-off once a month in Barry at the studio. So what I want us to do now is I want us to quickly look at Aveline Hole. And I made a statement earlier on that in the wonderful Mesolithic period, we don't get much in regard to human remains. But what we do have at Aveline Hole is enlightening, right? And what is enlightening at Aveline Hole is that we've got lots of evidence of sets of human remains. It's in the Mendip Hills, Somerset, and it drops. So you go in there, it actually drops down, and it goes for a length of about 68 meters. Now, interesting enough, massively interesting enough about Aveline Hole, and obviously you're thinking, oh, we didn't think we were going to be doing caves again. Like we are. Well, yeah, bloody hell, you know. I'm sure we'll look at some cave evidence in the Neolithic and a Roman period as well. We've certainly got lots of evidence in the Roman period. But Aveline Hole itself, we do know from the dating evidence that we've got a cave cemetery with maybe at one stage up to 50 sets of human remains being recorded, or thought may have existed. And the reason why this cave was discovered in 1797 by two men digging for a rabbit. So in the mouth there, it was all sort of filled up with material and so on. And as they were digging there, they also found some human remains. And the cave was excavated, and the entrance then excavated by the eminent archaeologist William Boyd Dawkins, who's very much into, he's one of the active archaeologists within this landscape. In 1860, this is the same time that Pengelly, exactly the same time, that Pengelly's looking at the likes of Kent's Cavern and Brixham. So what we've really got is within this is that we've got a cave cemetery. And the problem is, because it was originally found in 1797, we've lost a lot of the data. And it's been really difficult to date the evidence because of contamination, and also one major event. Other than 2 sets of skeletal remains that survived, most of it went up in an air raid, November 1940, Bristol Museum. So unfortunately, like lots of artifacts from lots of other archaeologists, lots of the data was lost in that air raid. So what they have found is a perforated animal teeth. They found several pieces of fossilized ammonite, which would have been brought in from the sea, because this is a carboniferous cave. So these are limestone objects, these ammonites, so they've obviously been brought in. Does it suggest the bodies were adorned? Well, lots of mixed up, lots of stuff distorted and changed. But archaeologists are saying that maybe what we might find in this cave system is actually Paleolithic evidence, which they haven't got to yet. And drum roll, red ochre as well. There's evidence of red ochre in there. So we've got, we got evidence of red ochre. So what somebody the other day, they were critical of when I do these lectures, sort of scrolling through Google images, right? But what we've got is, we've got lots of these images showing us what this cave space looked like. And there, if anyone wants to visit Aveline Hole, it's alongside the main road that will then eventually take you to Cheddar Gorge. But unfortunately, there's a grate over it now. So because people are going in there and illegal excavating. So what I might do next week, because I'm really struggling now. What we might do next week is come a little bit and do a little bit more over Aveline next week, and show you the image of the inscribed crosses that have been found on the walls at Aveline Hall. Hang on a minute. Inscribed, actually proper inscribed crosses. They do look like crosses inscribed. And the pattern is said to be comparative to some other sort of chevron-y type crosses that have been found on sites in northern France, Brittany, Germany, and Denmark. So what I am going to do is I am going to push myself just a little bit more. And I wouldn't be doing this any justice. I want to push myself a little bit more. And the reason why I wanted to push myself a little bit more is because what English Heritage says about this site is very, very relevant. I'm just getting this up on you. The listing for the reason why this has been scheduled. So let's just sort of look at the listing. So this site itself, it's basically the reasons for designation. I won't go through it all. This site itself is a Paleolithic cave, rock shelter. It's got evidence of human activity, burial activity. And this is one of, back to our English Heritage site, the level, even though the site has been mucked around with, even though stuff has been taken away, people really haven't dug as deep as they could have in the cave, like Brixham. like the Brixham sites. So this is one of 21 cave sites within the Somerset area, with this the densest form of cave sites. If you want to put Goff's Cave in there and all the other sites associated with Cheddar Gorge and so on, you've got 21 sites. Everline Hole is particularly important example. And we're thinking that it's, you know, going to the reading, it says it's not only to the wide range of Upper Paleolithic artifacts recovered, but also to its richness in hominid material, which shows it to be one of the earliest caves containing multiple burials in the country. So when we looked at Goff's Cave, what we did say, we found a set of human remains dating a little bit after this. And we said that this was the first fully articulated set of human remains found in the country. Well, but unfortunately, the archaeology has been mucked around with, and there may have been complete remains found in 1797. There may still be complete remains found in here, over 50 sets of human remains. So going back to this, what we've got is this, the cave slopes downwards, as we've already mentioned. First opened in 1797. And the original description was the human skeletal remains were seen scattered along the floor amongst stalagmite and stalactite deposits. Later excavations undertaken in 1927 told us that through the Mesolithic layers, there was a layer that was 3 foot of Paleolithic evidence. We've not even done this because it's not really been examined yet, silly me. The finds include lithic artifacts, including a very rare ancient harpoon. Oh, alarm bells! Harpoon found in a cave in Flintshire. What is a harpoon doing being found in a cave? What's going on here? Unfortunately, many of these items, particularly that antler harpoon, was lost in the bombing raid in Bristol. Some of the skeletal material has been radiocarbon dated. And what we do find is this doesn't date just to 10,300 years ago. It dates to 12,000 years ago. And finally, as we finish today, although the cave has been extensively excavated, there is lots to be learned from the cave. There is so much that is to be excavated. And also, where those 2 children are sitting very irresponsibly by the main road there, there is going to be a bed of archaeological evidence that relates to the time when that area where the children were was actually in a cave, because this is all decayed and stuff, and lots of stuff under the road. So what we need, Roger, is for you to accidentally go there, drill into a water main, to have a water company having to do work there, being a site of scientific importance, a triple SA and being a scheduled ancient monument. You bring the archaeologists in, we do the excavations, vis-a-vis the water company pays for it, job done, we got the results. Thanks for suggesting that, Rog. On that note, we are going to call it a day. And again, I think today there must have been a problem with, Zoom today. I did have problems with my devices, but they all came back. So we'll try and work out what that was. We had problems with Keith, me, and we've always got problems with Anne and Roger. Bill, anything you'd like to say, darling?
When you mentioned that a pipe had been found in the remains at Boldnar, I desperately wanted someone to say, well, where did they get the tobacco from? That didn't happen. But then on a more serious, maybe if Sir Walter Raleigh was earlier than that, we think, who knows? But seriously,
it's near where the Mary Rose sank, so that's not too, you know.
I then thought, how would you construct a pipe in the Mesolithic? So I'm still working on that.
They found a bit of wood, wood that's been hollowed out.
Yeah, how would you hollow it out? Yeah, comes back to the fact again that they had more advanced tools and technology that you realise they really did. Yeah.
Do you know, I saw a program the other day about this girl, and I say a girl. No, she was in her early 20s. That's really disrespectful, but a lady. All she had was a piece of wood and a piece of iron on the end, right? And she was able to build a little cave, right? She was able to put a shelf in there. She was able to put a bit of an oven in there. She was able to build a little shelter with just one little tool, right? And that goes back to what you said, Bill, right? Let's not blame the craftsman. Let's not blame the craftsman tools. Blame the craftsman. If you've got tools and you're able to use them to a higher degree than we can use them today, that is going to be ample enough to create the technological advances that we're now seeing.
Yeah, I think there must have been trees then with soft cores, which you could actually get out easily.
Like elder, Bill, like elder.
That sort of thing, yeah.
Not elder. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Carl.
Hopefully you're joining us tonight, Bill.
I will, yes, I will.
Keith, and everybody's welcome to join us tonight, Keith. And well, I don't want you to join us tonight, Keith, because I don't want you there. But you know,
I'm always out dogging on a Thursday night anyway.
What?
Can I just say something? Can I just say something about Bill's pipe theory? Right. We did discuss trade links, Bill.
Yeah.
Sure.
It may have come in with a bag of wheat. You never know.
Oh God. No, I'm thinking about this now.
Yeah.
Okay, carry on.
Bill, I think you should leave that. Keith, anything quick?
No, everything's fine, thanks.
Thank you, darling. What about you, Rog?
Fine, thanks, Carl.
Nothing?
Very good.
Okay, Karen.
Just going back to the pipe, you say it was a hollowed out piece of wood. Is there evidence it was actually used as a pipe, or is that just conjecture and it could have been a musical instrument, for example?
Do you know what we are going to do, right? I'm going to get the scientific paper on this pipe because I need the theories. I need the theories. I need it. I need why they thought it was a conduit. I need the evidence. I need that for next week. Yeah, unfortunately, the star car pendant's going to be relegated for 3 weeks' time, right? We've got a lot of questions. That is a big one. Karen, you're right. We need that for next week. Right, Stephen.
Nothing from me. Thanks, Carl.
Anne.
Thank you. Lots to look forward to.
Right. Okay.
Interesting lesson. Yes.
Thank you. And Henry, before we go on to Goff, because as soon as we mention Goff's name, he disappear. So Henry.
I've sent you a few other little messages there about shipbuilding in the area and salt pans and all sorts of other things that actually exist.
So what we're going to do, we're going to read through this now before we do Goff. So I forgot the site gets a double high tide, plus on the other side of the coast, you have salt pans, very, very old. Now, salt panning, we know it existed in the Iron Age. We got evidence of that. Maybe salt panning was happening before. These people needed a way to preserve their food. And if we're talking about the highly advanced technology that we're talking about, why can't we have salt panning? No, obviously, somebody walking along a beach on a very hot day, there's a pool of water, salt. This tastes nice, good. And also, they've got a bit of dead fish there that's been salted. Lovely. Let's have a bit of a sprat for dinner. On the facing coast, you have a fair number of tumuli. Clay pits are on the map. Love it. Double high tide adds shipbuilding, lots of it in this area. So thank you for all that. And then what I want to do is now we're going to finish with Goff.
No, nothing. Thank you. Look forward to next week. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, we managed a good session there anyway. So what we are going to do now, I'm going to thank you for joining us. Don't forget, if anyone wants to join us tonight, it's on the house. It's basically tonight's a little bit of a special one. It brings all the lines together. The idea of the line and development. You'll see it. So if there's no other questions from Karen, 6 o'clock tonight. If there's no other questions from Karen, Roger, Keith, Bill, Stephen, and Goff, Henry, and the Archbishop of Canterbury. And Pope Ratzinger, we will call it a day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
Bye.
Take care, my
Bye,
pleasure. And
everyone.
get well, Keith, as well. Take care, and Karen, get well soon.
Bye-bye.
Everyone's got COVID.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 Take care, guys. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. Take care. Thank you for that, Henry.
Yeah, having lived in the area for so long, there's an awful lot up the various rivers. You can see the channels that they did built boats in, and the size of tree trunks.
And also, before you go, why didn't you say that earlier on? I could have said we're now up the creek.
There are lots of creeks, and there's lots of, you can still see where they had the posts in to hold the tree trunks.
Ah, nice.
And of course, with your double tide, it's easier to float your vessel out.
Exactly.
So anyway, I'll leave you at that point. You go and have a rest.
Yeah, and yeah, I need it. I will see you next week. You can come along tonight if you want. If not, I'll see you next week.
Okay then, thank you.
Take care, lovely. Cheers, mate. Right, so I'll run through all that again. I gotta go. So we've got chat. We've got no sound, yes, that's from Anne. Just looking at old maps, you have a lot of woodland plus clay pits and other pits all used from different periods. I forgot the site gets a double high tide, plus on the other side of the coast, you have salt pans, very, very old. I love that bit where we can lift boats and so on. On the facing coast, you have a far number of tumuli. Love it. Tumuli could relate to mounds associated with clay pit digging or whatever. Other buildings, not just burial. Clay pits are on the map. Double high tide adds shipbuilding, lots of it in the area. Anyway, what we're going to do now, we're going to finish there. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And my t-shirt says, those people who think they know everything are a great annoyance to those of us who do. Isaac Asimov. On that one, thank you very much. It's Karl-James Outford. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And yes, if anyone's ever got any doubts, my qualifications are postgraduate diploma in archaeology and heritage from Leicester University, a Master of Letters degree from the University of Highlands Archaeology, years and years of experience, and obviously we do charge from these classes because they are very good value. All my years of research, and thank you very much. Any comments and so on, put down below. Thank you. Off. Like and